Welcome in, I'm Archers, and in this video we are finishing up our coverage for OP12, at least the new leaders. This is the last of the new leaders to come out in OP12, and usually you're going to save the best for last, but that is not the case with Purple Yellow Rosinante. This is a 4-life leader that says once per turn, if your Trafalgar Law would be KO'd, you may add the top card of your life pile to your hand instead, and then activate main once per turn, Don -1. During this turn, the next time you play a Law from your hand with a cost of 4 or more, that cost is reduced by 2. So those are a couple of cool effects, but overall, in the scheme of the meta, this deck just doesn't really seem to have a place as of right now. But before we go over the deck list and how the leader operates, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button and also give the video a thumbs up. It helps out the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord community. The link for that is in the description below. So with this leader, it's very unique in the sense that it is a tribal leader. We see this a lot in Magic the Gathering with like vampires or rats or whatever it may be. This is the first time I believe this has happened within the One Piece card game where you are specifically tailored to be building this deck around Trafalgar Laws within the purple and yellow colors. But unfortunately, building it that way means you're leaving some of the better color combinations out of this deck because, of course, purple is really strong right now. Yellow has generically good cards, but you're wanting to, like I said, tailor it around having as many laws, at least the most efficient laws you can have in the deck. And so we've built it in a way that at least you can still have those laws in your deck, but also have some ways to win games. But I've got to say that this deck is definitely not a great deck overall. It's one that I feel is going to be a cope tier for a lot of people, and I'm sure people have figured this out by now. The deck just seems to struggle into the meta of like Zoro or UP Luffy, and as a result, if it can't hang with those decks, I don't think this deck is worth playing in a competitive environment. This is definitely a deck I would say you should take to a local and enjoy there, but as far as topping at a regional or a treasure cup, God bless your soul if you decide to take this deck. That being said, let's get into the deck list. So starting off, we have a playset of the 1-cost Law Searcher, just looking at the top 4 cards of your deck, either grabbing a 2-cost or greater card that is Straw Hat Crew type or Heart Pirates type, and then put it in the hand, and then put the rest at the bottom of the deck in any order. This grabs a lot of cards in the deck, so we'll go over which cards it can grab. It can grab this 2-cost 2K counter Beppo. I put this in the deck because I think it's pretty important when you're using your leader ability to be able to get an additional 1,000 power for free, and this is really good to be able to combat UP Luffy if you do happen to go against any UP Luffys, but also just being able to buff a character. It can be a leader or character, by the way, by 1,000 power when you minus a Dawn. It's pretty impactful. This is a good 2K to have in hand as well. Obviously, 2Ks are great in hand, but this is one that I would also recommend just playing out early so that you get the value accrued over time. Next up, I'm running a playset of Charlotte Pudding, the 3-cost 4,000 power purple card that says your turn once per turn. When a Dawn card is returned to your Dawn deck, set up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck onto your field is rested. So you're able to use your leader ability for free. This is really important because sometimes using your leader ability can be taxing, especially when you're playing the blocker law and you're wanting to use both the leader ability plus the blocker law effect. I'm talking about the 4-cost blocker law, which we'll get to in a second. So you are going to be minusing Dawn a lot. This will actually help mitigate that, and so I think it's pretty important to throw this down early. Now, if I have an option between playing the Pudding or the Beppo on 3, always going to be playing the Pudding just because having a 2K in hand is better, but that's why we have like this early game to be able to search on turn 1 and then have a Beppo or a Pudding to play down on turn 2. Next up, I'm running a playset of Kamazo 2K counters. This is actually a 2K counter I would also suggest you could play down. It's very interesting because this is really good into certain matchups like Rayleigh, where once per turn, whenever you Dawn minus, you are able to KO up to one of your opponent's characters that is cost 2 or less. So this hits a lot of things that Rayleigh throws down. It also can just get rid of these little pesky blockers that a lot of like green decks will throw down as well. So this is a pretty good card to have overall. It also serves a second purpose, which we'll get to in a little bit, but notice that it has the Supernova's subtype. So that is pretty important for a couple of cards that we have in the deck. Next up, we have a playset of the Blocker Law that rips 2 cards from hand. If your opponent has 7 or more in their hand, you of course have to Dawn -1 to get this effect off. So it can be very taxing if you are playing this out very early. You can play this out as early as your second turn, going first or second. Of course, if you're doing that when you're cheating it out with your leader ability, you also have to Dawn -1 with this card. So you're Dawn minusing 2, which doesn't really feel great. So you might want to hold that off for a little bit later, but you can be a little bit cheeky and rip cards from hand early, of course, at the cost of not being able to play more bodies later on, at least quicker. A card that I really enjoy in this deck is the 6-cost Luffy from EBO2. The reason I have this in the deck is because it's a great closer. Now, sometimes you're going to be able to fill out the board with a bunch of 7 cost, like 8,000 power characters, 7 cost 9,000 power characters, and pushing with those characters is really nice. But being able to have a surprise rusher that can attack twice for 9,000 if you're on 10 Dawn is really important in some scenarios. Of course, this is going to be able to get that effect off because your leader is multicolored, so you do have the rush, and then of course you do have to Dawn -2 when you do this, but I think you're just using this as a closer, hence why I only have 2 in the deck. You can play this down on curve if you want. It is a threatening card in general, and your opponent has to respect it, and it's also searchable off of this law, so there are ways to find this if you do need it. But I'm only running 2 because I don't think it's a card that's super important for the game plan you're trying to do. Obviously, you're trying to spam the board out with laws, but once you can overwhelm your opponent with a lot of these little small micro swings, then you can throw this Luffy down and close out a game from there. One of the new cards from OP12 is the 7 cost 8,000 power law that says on play, if the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to or less than the number on your opponent's field, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. Then your Don Quixote, Rosinante, and your Heart Pirates type characters get 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So being able to buff everything up by 1,000 is really powerful, of course, and that lasts for the entirety of that turn, so very nice to see. And you do get that Dawn back when you do play this card out. Very important for your game plan. I like to play this out when I have a board full of laws that I can already buff up with the ability. Otherwise, it's nice to throw it down early and have that buff on your leader, making it harder for your opponent to swing into you efficiently, also being able to swing into UP Luffy for free. We're running a playset of the Rosinante Searcher, just looking at the top 5 cards of your deck and grabbing a law and then adding it to your hand, so adding a lot of cards, of course, over the course of the deck. This is a good card to be able to like chain if you need to find a specific piece. You can throw this down, and if you need to, you can grab this card, and then this card can grab something else that you might need. So that's a good way to be able to find something. If you're in a desperate pinch, that is a good card, of course, to grab. But otherwise, you could just grab any of the laws you might see across the way. We're running a playset of the 2K promo law. Now, this one is probably going to be the most expensive card in the deck besides Kuma because of the fact that it is very hard to get a hold of right now. It's like $30 or $40. So this one's unfortunately a bullet you have to bite. Unfortunately, it's a really good card for your synergy because it is a law, it is a supernova, it's a Heart Pirates. You can grab it with any of the searchers that you have. So pretty important there. You can also put it into life with the 7 cost law, which I mentioned supernovas is very important. So you do need to run a certain amount of supernovas for that. It is going to be a card that doesn't trigger because of the fact that your leader doesn't have supernovas type. So keep that in mind. If it comes out of life, you don't get to trigger it, but at least it's a 2K counter to put in your hand. Another new card from OP12 is a 6 cost 7,000 blocker law, another law that's pretty solid overall. Being able to play this for only 4 Dawn is pretty nice. It is not really great outside of that, but you are able to cheat this out for 4, so a 4 cost 7,000 power blocker is nothing to scoff at. And of course, with most decks in yellow, you should be running Kuma at a playset, and so this will allow you to at least extend the game, because when you're using the first part of your leader ability to stop or prevent KOs to your laws, you are going to be taking that life, and so being able to put life back into your life area is very important to be able to prolong the game and also get more effects off to protect your laws. So I think Kuma is very important, being able to pitch a card and heal, and then also on KO healing as well. So this does a great job at least sustaining yourself over the course of a game. And we do have another card that helps you sustain yourself, which is the 7 cost law, which came out in OP10. It says on play, reveal a Supernovas type character from your hand and add it to the top of your life face down. Then if your leader has a Supernovas type, give up to 1 rested Dawn to your leader. You don't get that extra Dawn to your leader, that's fine, but we are able to put a lot of cards in life. You can put this card in life, the 2K that I mentioned, this Kamazo is a supernova. You can also put this law into life as well. I might be missing something else. I think, oh, this blocker as well. So you do have options to put into your life, which I think is important, which is why we're running a playset of this Kamazo to be able to have more supernovas to put in, more targets for this, of course. And we have 8 ways to heal up and stay alive, so I think that's also important for this deck. As you can see, we don't really have a lot of top end with the deck overall. Our top end hitting at 7 cost means that we're a mid-range deck. Being able to like spam the board out with some efficient characters and then swing in from there is pretty important. To close out what we have here, we have 2 0-cost Gum Gum Jet Gatlings. I noticed that there's some people that do run the 0-cost yellow event, so you're the one that should disappear, which is a good way to also extend the game if you do get that as a last life trigger. Of course, that is very situational. I do like this just in general because of the fact that it does ramp you up, and sometimes you are using your leader ability to be able to minus Dawn, and being able to get that Dawn back with the 0-cost event coming out of life is important. Of course, there's arguments to run either this event or the yellow one, so take your pick. Probably the yellow one is a little bit better overall just for the chance factor. but I think that Gatling is fine as well because at any stage of the game, the effect from the trigger is important. I'm running one Gamma Knife because I think that if you do go into any green decks, especially decks that run 8-cost Kid, you're going to need an answer to it, and Gamma Knife is the answer to that. Being able to reduce the power of a character by 5,000 will allow most things to swing in and trade into it pretty efficiently, and it's searchable off of this law. And then finally, I'm running one of this technique extinguishes all sound created by your influence event. This is a great way to close out a game because it allows one of your laws to gain 2,000 power, and then your opponent cannot activate blocker when that character attacks. So you kind of want to push your opponent down to 0. Not kind of, you do want to push your opponent down to 0 as the game plan is for most games, and then be able to use this effect and bypass any blockers they might have established so you can go for game at that point. I've taken a lot of games from opponents that don't expect this card because they put up a wall of blockers, and then I put this onto like this character and just swing in for a huge amount. So that's a great way to close the game out. I'm running one of them because I don't want to have too many. I think it's kind of the same thing with the blue Dofi back in the day when we had like Jimbei was unbanned. You would only run like one perfume femur to be able to close the game out, sometimes 2 if you really wanted to, but I think that with these unblockable events, they're only really good in one situation, and you need to have it at that point in time. And of course, I guess the argument is you want to increase the amount of times you could see it. You can search this out, of course, because it is a Heart Pirates card, so you can find this with this law if you do need to find it, of course. So I would only run one in the deck if that. There's a bunch of other cards you could add into this deck as well, which I'll go over at the end of the video, but at least for the sake of this, I think that we have hit a decent 50. Once again, though, this deck is not necessarily a deck I am super confident in winning a big event. It's more of a fun deck to play and test out, and if you're bored of the meta and have nothing else to do, I would suggest trying this deck out and seeing what's going on with it. But I feel like it's missing a little bit of something, and I'm not sure what. I think Bandai, when they created this leader, were like, oh, this is a cool leader, and then they just kind of like passed it on along that way. So I think that overall, Rosinante is kind of like in a not great spot in the meta right now. Maybe over time, we'll see more laws come out in yellow and purple. And of course, if that's the case, then this Rosie can only go up from there. With that being said, let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. Alrighty, going against Shanks here, I kind of like this hand because of the fact that we have a search on 1, and we have some Beppos. Beppos are actually pretty good in this matchup, being able to, whenever you use your leader ability, first off, let's see what we can grab here. I think the 6-cost blocker law might be better because we can get it out earlier. Being able to use our leader ability, but also be rewarded, giving us that plus 1,000 is going to be nice over the course of the game because it will kind of mitigate their leader effect overall. I think what we do here is we swing 6 first, just in case they have a Red Hawk. They're leaving 2 open. They might have it, they might not. But I would rather just swing 6 first and see what they have. Then we'll play out the Beppo. This next turn, what we can do is we can play out the law and then use the leader ability to then get our free plus 1,000 from the Beppo. So that's the reason why we play that out first. We can also get out the 6-cost law as well. Of course, though, with this Shanks being on the field, means that they will still be able to use their leader ability and then block the 6k attack. It's annoying, but it is what it is. Let's see if they have the game knowledge here. Okay, so they do have the minus 1,000. Do they block? They block. Okay, so they know what's up. That's fine. Not a big deal, but the Beppo is still getting value overall. I think if we have Beppo stay on the field for 2 more turns, we get value out of the Beppo. Of course, if he'll get the value for the next turn because he's going to be 2'd on that we paid, and then we get essentially 2'd on back with the buff there. So here, what we can end up doing is I think we swing 8 with the law. I think we swing 8 with the blocker law. We're not worried about them attacking into it because we can just use our leader effect if we want to keep it alive. They might use the Lucky Roo to KO the Beppo. They don't. They just take the hit, and that's fine. What we do is we Don -1. We're going to then put the leader, or put the +1 onto the leader. We're not going to actually swing with the leader here. We're going to use the 7-cost law and then put a law 2k into life. I don't want them to blow up the Beppo this turn with the Lucky Roo. I want them to have a different target. And I think because they're at 8 in hand means they're probably going to be at 7. Okay, so they're not going to play another card this turn, more than likely. Okay, I spoke too soon, but it's a card that at least puts a card in hand. So they're probably going to be at 7 going into this next turn, which means we could probably just play out the 4-cost law, which is going to be very nice for us. We'll go ahead and take this. We'll get the 2k that we put into life back. We'll hold on to the 7-cost law just as a way to heal up later. It is nice to have a bigger body, of course, but I think because they are at 7, we're going to punish them this turn. We're not going to use our leader ability to do this. I don't want to go down too far in Dawn. We'll go ahead and just rip 2. I wanted to get the 10 cost Shanks out of their hand, but I guess a Dream Luffy and a 2K is fine as well. Let's swing 7 into lead. If they decide to use the Lucky Root here to blow up the 4 cost Law that we just played, we can actually just use our leader ability and protect it, which is really nice, of course. So I think that's a good opportunity to do so. If they're going to blow up anything, I'd blow up the Beppo, but I think, yeah, it looks like they're trying to blow up the 4 cost Law. Okay, since we got another one in hand, I think what we could do is test the waters, swing 7 here. If they take, then we can swing 9 with the 7 cost Law, and if they take both of those, we can actually use our leader ability to cheat out the other 4 cost Law and then rip 2 more from hand. Not the case though, because they do just get rid of the Otama, which means our backup plan could be to play the other Beppo, so that we have +2 going into the next turn if we use it. Although I do want to fill up my board with bigger characters. Beppo is fine, I think, to start off with. They're going into 10 here, which 10 could be the 10 cost Shanks that they played out. Could be interesting. Yeah, they're swinging 5 here. So I think what we do, I don't want to go down to 0 either. Against Shanks, they might be running things like Roger. You never know. So I think wanting to push me down to 0. I think we just stay at 1. I think we stay at 1. I want to protect. I want to keep this life open because if they decide to swing the 10 cost Rush Shanks into something, I can use the effect and get the life instead of forcing one of these cards to just die. So we're going to stay at 1 life here, even if it means pitching our hand. I think they decide to just, they're going wide. Oh my God. What the? This is insane. Okay, I've never seen a Shanks have this many blockers on the field at the same time. This is going to be massively hard for us to get through. What I think we do is instead of going for life, I think what we do is we just go for the board here. I think we swing 9 into the most annoying blocker of them all. This Shanks is going to, I want to get the Shanks off the field. They're probably just going to block with the Chopper here. I think that's probably the best move on their part, for them to just block with Chopper and then force me to swing up from there. Okay, yeah, exactly what I thought. We're going to swing another 9. We're going to swing 9 into this Shanks here. And if we can get this off the field, perfect. I think what we end up having to do here is we're just going to use the leader ability just outright. And then we'll get the +2 from both of the Beppos. And I want to swing 9 into this one, but I think we just swing 8 into this one, see if we can get a leader ability plus a 2K. Or maybe we get like a blocker Shanks ability. Looks like it's a blocker Shanks ability, and then probably a leader ability. Okay, that's fine. We get a card out of hand. Not a big deal. We're going to be able to heal up. Because they were so aggressive this last turn, I want to heal up. We're putting the 2K Kamazo into life so that we at least get that 2K back. They do play out the 10 cost Rush Shanks, which is pretty good for us. What we're going to do is we're just going to use the leader effect. If they decide to go into one of the bodies, we use the leader effect to get that 2K back into hand. And then they'll probably just swing 5 into lead. And they might be really aggressive with their blockers again. But who knows, they might actually just sit back this turn. So we're going to go and give them the 1K there. They just passed the turn. Good to see. Here, we have to just ignore the 10 cost Shanks, unfortunately. So we're going to go and swing 8 into lead. I think swinging 8 is a really annoying number for Shanks when they have blockers that are 6K on the field. Swinging 7 normally is like more annoying, but I think because of the fact that they have these 6K blockers, it's kind of just a real pain. We unfortunately don't have too many good plays outside of this. They do block with one of the Rayleighs. We're going to swing 8 into lead here. We're just going to swing as many 8s as possible. I do want to leave both of these blockers up here because I don't want to have the potential of losing. I think what we do, we put everything onto this Beppo, but we use our leader ability. We're not going to cheat anything out. We're just going to give the +1000 to the Beppo, and we're going to swing 8 into lead yet again and see what they do here. They might give us counter because they see that we have one more swing that we could potentially come through with the 6 cost blocker law, but I think we're not going to swing with it. We're just going to leave it up. The way that they were positioning themselves a couple turns ago when they were swinging to push me down to 0, it's 12 and 8. We're just going to block with this law. We're not going to use the ability. I'm afraid that they might have a Roger in hand. They might want to push me down to 0, and that's the reason why they were being so aggressive that one turn. Not too many Shanks run Roger, but there's always the potential that they have it. And because of that potential, you want to play as safe as possible if that's the case. This 9 cost Shanks from the starter deck's really good in this position. It makes it really hard for me to go for lethal. But they have 2 cards in hand, so we can actually kind of push that if that's the case. They decide to go for the Beppo, which is fine. What we're going to do is we're going to search out with this law and see what we can get. see what our options are first. I think we just grab a blocker law here because I don't think that Luffy's going to be good in this situation. We're going to use the effect to not really do anything here. We're just going to use the effect just to go ahead and get rid of it, just in case they have a way to get rid of something on the field. So we're just going to go ahead and be smart about using our effect because we can use the effect at any point in time. We're going to swing 9 into lead here. This will likely have to be a block. Okay, they just let it go. And because they just took that, we're free to use this unblockable attack. We're just going to stack the rest of the Dawn onto this law, and I don't think they're going to be able to counter out of a 16k unblockable with 3 cards in hand and 3 Dawn open. So I think that was a mistake on their part letting that through. They probably should have just blocked it with the chopper, but I don't think they're ever expecting. They did have a Roger. They had the Roger. Oh my God. I knew it. I felt it. I knew that they had a Roger in hand based off of the way that they were swinging that one turn. I'm so glad we played around it. Always keep that in mind that if they're playing aggressive like that, they're trying to get you to 0, there could be a chance that Roger's in hand. But also, we had kind of a Roger of our own where we had the 2-cost event to be able to get through all their blockers. GG. Against Caesar Clown, a deck that I don't really see very often, and I mean, I guess it's fitting because you don't really see Rosinante play too often. We're going to mulligan this hand. I actually think that this matchup could be interesting. Obviously, I've never played this matchup because we don't ever see too many Caesar Clowns out in the open, and not too many people are playing Rosinante, but I think this could be an interesting matchup because of the fact that they have built-in removal, and we can just use our leader effect if that's the case. But it does mean we're probably going to take 2 life whenever we're using our leader effect. We don't have really any good options here to use our leader effect on. We actually kind of have to just use the leader effect on bringing out this 2k law, which sucks, but I don't have anything else I could play. And in this role specifically, Gamma Knife is not great. They're going to use a Monet, so they have like the perfect thing that they need. Swing 9, we're going to use our leader effect to keep this law alive. We'll take the 2 hits and we'll actually ramp up 1, which is really nice, which means we can do nothing with that. It just means we can swing a little bit bigger. We can swing like 6, 7, and then cheat out, I guess, another 2k. We could also just swing 5 and see if they give us a 1k. I want them to get that Monet out of their hand. They're probably not going to give it to us, though, if I had to imagine. We could also just swing a bunch of 5s. Swinging 3 5s is pretty solid as well. I don't want to give them, like, they're probably going to take a 7 guaranteed, so let's go ahead and just see what they do with this 5 here. See what else we can get out of their hand. And then we'll cheat out another 2k law, which I don't want to be cheating these out, but if you have nothing else to play, it's kind of like unfortunate. We're going to go ahead and minus a Dawn, play out this law, and then next turn what we can end up doing is if they do swing at face and we take 2 life yet again, we can heal back up to 1 with the 7-cost law. We'll be able to get that off with the with our leader ability here. So they go Karina to minus 2,000, minus 3,000 to that one. So they're just going to go face again. I'm going to use my leader ability, and I'm going to take this hit, go down to 0. And because I have ways to heal up, I think it's fine. We're going to swing 5. We're once again swinging a bunch of 5s, just taxing their hand. They have 2 blockers, of course. They might be able to use the blockers here and there. And we'll swing another 5 here. They gave us a Monet, which is nice to see. We're going to use the law, see what we can grab off of it. I think this blocker law is pretty solid. And then what we'll do is use our leader ability to Dawn -1, play out this law, and then put... It doesn't matter. We'll put that law into the life. We probably should hold on to the 2Ks just in case we need them in our hand for this next turn. Gum Gum UFO, minus 4,000 to this 7-cost law. I think we need this 7-cost law, so if they decide to get rid of it, it was at 5, it's going to be at 4 with the Monet. They did have another Monet. They've seen a lot of good stuff. Unfortunate. Okay. Swinging 8 into this law, I think what we do is we just take the life. We use our leader ability. We let this law go. Yeah, I think we just let it go. And then what we'll do is we'll play the other 7-cost law the next turn, heal back up. They play a chopper. What do we do? We could swing 6, 6, 9. Use leader ability, heal back up. Will they have any 2Ks? They block. Interesting to see. Okay, we're going to go 6 again. See if they block again. They block again. Okay, we'll go 9. See if they block again. They take... And we'll use our leader ability here, heal back up. I think we just put the other 7 costs in our hand into life and then hold on to all the counter we have. There's an argument to put a 2K into life just in case they have like a pudding or something so that we're guaranteed to get a 2K, but they don't have it. They have the Ein to go 0 onto the law. They're going to then Monet the other law. And they're swinging 7, popping this other law. I'm going to use my leader ability to keep this other law alive. I can actually just protect this law. I'm I'm going to dump my entire hand because I think it's pretty important to keep this law alive. We're going to give him all the 2Ks in the world. And then we're going to swing 9, 9, 9, 9. Swing 4 9s. There's no way they can get through all of that. Yeah. There's no way. That's GG, but I think we had a good advantage because of our leader ability. Kind of like is a direct counter to theirs. I've seen quite a lot of Katakuri in solo, so is this deck coming back? I'm not entirely sure why I'm seeing so much of it. It's actually pretty scary at times. I think it's a deck that I think a lot of people forget about, but we're going to go ahead and just search with our Law. This hand's pretty solid. We can go Law into Pudding, and then Pudding from there hopefully sticks. And then if the Pudding sticks, then we're able to really get some value over the course of the game. We'll swing 5 first and just see what they do. They give us a 1K, of course. We'll play the Pudding and pass. This turn, they could play a couple of things. They might have like a Zeus to get rid of the Pudding. They swing 5. We'll just take that. I don't mind taking this hit here. What would they have for 4? Maybe, okay, another Hawkins. I was going to say maybe like a Kikunojo, but they don't have it. We'll go ahead and search out what we can. This Law is okay, I think, because we have enough 7 cost in the game. I don't think we need another one. Let's go ahead and swing 7. Just see if, I mean, they'll probably take this one anyway, but I think we just cheat out the... Oh no, is this did I mess up? Is this a trigger to get rid of the Pudding? It is. Oh no, that's okay. I mean, I guess we lose a Dawn, but it's not the worst thing in the world. We'll still be able to play our 7 costs the next turn. We just would have 1 less Dawn than we would have had previously, which is fine because that means we probably are more incentivized to play the 7 cost Law that buffs. Swinging 6 into lead here. I think I give them a 2K, and then let's see what they do. They might swing like 7, play another 4 cost character. I'm just going to ignore these Basil Hawkins. I don't think that they're worth ever swinging into. I don't want to trash a life. Okay, we get a 2K off of that. That's pretty nice here. And another Basil Hawkins. Yeah, we're just going to ignore these. I think we swing 6 into lead with this blocker Law, just in case they have a way to kill it. Okay, and then we're going to use our leader ability here and play out the 7 cost Law, ramp up 1, and then swing 7 with lead. And now all of our characters are buffed by 1,000 and our leaders buffed by 1,000, meaning that it's going to be a little bit harder for them to swing with their Hawkins unless they invest more Dawn into it, which they might not want to. And this turn, usually for 8, they'll swing like 7. They'll go like 5, 5, 7 Big Mom, like the 7 cost Big Mom. But they might not be able to do that if that's the case, which is one of the reasons why the 7 cost Law is really great for the deck. Okay, they do have a Linlin. They'll swing 7 with their leader here. And they're playing a pretty good curve overall. I think we just give them a 2K. Depends on where they swing, but I think we give them a 2K no matter what. I don't want to take a life. I don't want to go down to 1, especially going into their 10 Dawn turn. They could have the 10 cost Big Mom. And if they have the 10 cost Big Mom, that means that we're in some trouble there, because I don't want to go down to 0 and have to counter out of stuff. Here, they're swinging 7 into the blocker Law. I'm just going to give them a 2K, even though I could use the leader ability. Once again, as I mentioned, I don't want to go down to 1 going into the 10 Dawn turn. I think what we do is we swing 7 with this blocker Law. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. Not a single time. Not a single bit. We're going to use the leader ability here. We're going to cheat out this Law. We're going to swing 8. Yeah, I think we swing 8. 8's fine. We don't have anything that we could counter with anyway. That's 1. We'll swing 8, and then we'll swing 9. Kikunojo to come out of life. Interestingly enough to see that, and they take that. They'll go down to 1 life here. They have a lot of cards in hand. Not really confident we can close out the game. If they play a 10 cost Big Mom, it's going to be incredibly hard to do that. I mean, the good thing here is with this 7 cost Law buffing everything by 1,000, it makes their Basil Hawkins basically just turns the Basil Hawkins off because they can't swing with them. And if they can't swing with them, then we also don't swing into them either. We're not tempted to. Not that I would ever, but their board is insane. Okay, so they do play the 10 cost Big Mom, trashing a Law here. The Kikunojo is probably going to go after the blocker Law, if I would imagine they're going to swing anything. And based off of her hand, we're not in a good spot. We could play for 1 more turn where we have the 7 cost Law that heals. I think here what we do is we just, we counter out of this. We use our leader ability. We do have a Kuma. Okay. Nice to see we have a couple of options to heal here, but I don't think going for the board's ever worth it. And I think our prayers have been answered in a way. This 6 cost restand Luffy is actually really good to close out the game if we can. Let's just pressure with some 8s. See what we can do here. See if we're able to get some cards out of hand. 8's really awkward for them. They take the first one. They do take that first one. Let's swing another 8. See what they give us here. Probably 2 2Ks if I had to guess. They have 8 in hand. Usually Katakuri is bricked up sometimes, and it looks like they might be. 0 cost event. They do have they're pitching 1Ks to do that, so they're not worst thing in the world. Let's swing 5 first. Just see if we can get another counter out of hand. I'm hoping that this last life is not like a 0-cost event or a beige. If it's either one of those, then we just lose. They take. Wow. Okay, so it is a trigger. It's a Frankie. That means we're free to like swing in. We're free to swing in 9-9. And this is the reason why the 6-cost Luffy is so good. Just being able to close out a game where your opponent might not expect these swings to come through. So we're going to go and play this out and swing 9. Use the ability to restand. There's no way they counter out of this one. They took a 5. They had the counter. They were baiting me. This guy was baiting me. We're going to swing 9 again, and that's guaranteed. GG. This 6-cost Luffy is so good for these situations where you need those extra swings. Into Green Zoro. I don't think this is a good matchup for us. I mean, we could use our leader ability, but we're losing 2 life return. We're going to search out the law here so that we have a play on 5, and we have a play on... what is it, 7 or I guess 6 at that point? I guess our saving grace for us is that we have the Kumas and we have the 7-cost Law. Both of those are great ways to extend the game so that we just don't die outright. But this matchup's still really difficult. I'm going to just swing 8 here because I don't have anything I want to do. I don't want to play out this Law because it's just going to be more than likely rested by a Kuina. I don't want them to even have the chance. I think the 2k in hand is better than the attacker on the field. And this next turn, we can actually play out to this 6-cost Law here and be fine. Let's see here. So we take the 7. They have a blocker, which is going to be annoying. We'll swing 6 into lead here. We've drawn this Gamma Knife so many times into matchups that we don't ever need it into. We'll Don -1. We'll play out to the 6-cost blocker Law. Now, they could, if they have the Tashigi, they have the way to rest this Law, the blocker Law, because I think Tashigi's a 6-cost or less. Original cost, by the way. They don't have the Tashigi. They have a blocker Law instead, which I don't see that ran too often. They do grab a Tashigi, so they probably just didn't have one in hand. We're going to go ahead and block that for free with this Law. And then because of the fact that they have the Tashigi, I think we just swing with the blocker Law because it's going to be rested anyway. So no reason to not swing with it. Let's use the Don -1. We're going to cheat out the Law that buffs everything, and we're going to swing 9 and delete here. They might block this one. Okay, they take it. That's good for us. We want to pressure them down to a low life total. And then this next turn, if they do play out the Tashigi, they could swing into the blocker Law, but I'm just going to be able to use my leader ability to protect it. Or I might just, like, depending on the swing, might just give them a counter. It depends. They do play the Tashigi. They'll rest the Rosinante. Okay, that's the only thing they could rest anyway. This is why we swung with the Law we had. And because they're swinging 8 into 8, I don't want to just use my leader ability. I'm going to give them a 1k here and see what they have, because they might have a restand. It looks like they might. It looks like they have the 3-cost restand event. I'll go 8 into lead, and I'll take that one. They have 7 in their hand, which if they use the restand event, they'll have 6. But maybe we'll swing first and see if they take a life, and then use the 4-cost Law. Just depends. They do have the restand event, and we'll go down to 1 life here. And then what we'll do is, I guess we could swing... We have a couple of options. We have a lot of ways to heal, which is nice. Let's leave 5 open just in case. Let's swing 7 first. See what they do. They block just straight up. Swing 8. See if they take it. I am tempted, but I think it's better to just heal and stay as healthy as possible. So let's swing 8. They give us 2 2Ks. Use our leader ability here. We'll play out the 7-cost and then put a 2K into life. And I think it's better to just amass a board of really big characters at this point, as opposed to ripping cards out of hand with the blocker Law. I think that's probably better. Take the 7. Ooh, I think we take the 7. And if they go 12-12, I mean, we could save ourselves. At what cost? At what cost, though? Okay, so they're swinging 6 with the Perona. They might not have a lot of other things to do here. Okay, we'll just counter out with a 2K here. And then, did they go 8-8? 8-8 is a potential with 6 Dawn left. They're playing another Law here. Okay. Interesting. I think they're blockering up. I think they're feeling the pressure a little bit, which is good for us. That's really good for us that they're feeling that, because of the fact that our board is getting really wide. It's wide and tall is the scary thing. Now, would it have been better for them to swing into board? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. I think pressuring face is better for them here. Getting me down to 0 is what they're trying to do. But also they're doing a good job at keeping themselves from dying either. Usually Zoro is really weak, and the fact that you can counterattack them pretty easily, but getting through these blockers is going to be a pain. So let's just swing 8, see what they do here. They give us 2Ks. Okay, with that, let's turn our attention to the Tashigi and see if we can get the Tashigi off the field. They block, and I think what we do is we swing 9 into the Tashigi, see if they block again. They had counter. Okay, so they give us a 2 and a 1. I think what we do is we swing 7 into the Tashigi and see if we can get one more counter out of hand. Maybe it goes. One more counter goes. We'll use our leader ability. We'll put the law into life, so we have the 2K coming out. And this next turn, I think what we can do, we're in a really rough spot. If they have like the 3-cost event this turn, we might just lose because of the fact we swung with the law. Okay, they might not have it based off of this swing here. We're going to counter out as much as possible. We're going to counter out of that 5. They have 8 coming our way. 8 into... Oof. I think I gave them a 1K. But if they have the 3-cost event, that's not really good for us. We're in a... this is a really scary spot. Based off of our hand being 2 and a 1. Okay, so they go 8 into lead. We get the 2K out of that, which is good. If they have the restand event, we actually could potentially lose here, depending on how they swing. 7 into 5. I have to give them a 2 and a 1. Yeah, I think I give them a 2 and a 1 here. If I give them a 2 and a 1, and they go 7 with the blocker law, we lose. Because if they have the restand event, then we just lose. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, this is like scary. This is a reason, like, you don't know how many attacks are coming. Oh, they swing 5. Okay, I give them a 2K here. Because if I take this and they swing 7 with the blocker law, we lose. Okay. I think we pulled it out. But barely. If they had the restand event there, I think we lose for sure. But we got really lucky they didn't see what they needed. They got a lot of searches off too, because they played that law and then bounced the Peronas a few times. They had Mihawks in hand. Okay, so we got super lucky that they didn't see the event, but they had plenty of opportunities to find it with the Peronas being able to be bounced back with the law. So I guess we'll take luck over skill sometimes. But yeah, some of those games were a little bit of a struggle, as you could have seen. We definitely squeaked out some wins with definitely the event there, and the Shanks game was absolutely necessary. With some of the Zoro game we came into, we got a little bit lucky that they didn't see what they needed to at certain times. So you do have to have a little bit of luck, of course. The consistency of this deck, I think, is something you could definitely take into effect as far as the strength of it, because of the fact that you do see a lot of Heart Pirates or Law characters with your searchers. You have 8 total. Being able to find those things are really nice. So there is a little bit of merit to having some consistency there overall. With that being said, there's a couple of cards that I would suggest maybe looking into. I know that right now we have a weird situation where we don't have a lot of promos come out in a reasonable amount of time in the West, but I think one card that will really help this deck out is this 4-cost 6,000 power blocker law. It's a promo card that we don't have right now, and we don't know when it will come out. It's kind of the same case with this law. We don't know when this was coming out, and eventually it just came out through, I think, like a tournament pack, which is one of the reasons why it's expensive. It's either tournament pack or it's like a pre-release pack. I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, I think the same thing will happen for this card. It'll probably come out either in a pre-release pack or a tournament pack, making it a little bit harder to get, but it's very specific for, it's more so for this deck, I think, and it's really good because it's on play. It will allow you to ramp up if you have equal to or less Dawn than your opponent, which you will if you cheat this out early. Of course, this is a better option early than this law. I don't really like playing this law early, and I think that this is a great later game or mid-game tool, rather, and this one is a better early game tool to be able to ramp back up and have a pretty solid attacker overall. The other card that I was testing out was this 3-cost law, but unfortunately I found myself not being at less than Dawn than the opponent. So it says when attacking, if your opponent has more Dawn cards on their field than you, look at the top 5 of your deck. I was either at equal Dawn or like 1 above, and so I never was really able to get this effect off when I tried it out. Of course, that might be just a skill issue, but I think that this card is one that you might want to consider, but I think it's not one that you definitely have to add to the deck. I've also been considering the 9-cost Linlin because if you're in purple and you're not UP, I think it's worth running in some capacity, but getting to 9 Dawn can be a little bit of a task with this leader. You're wanting to play out other characters instead, but this is a good way to heal up if you do want to at least establish a big body. So Linlin could be something worth exploring. And then of course I mentioned you're the one that should disappear. I think this card probably could be a replacement for the Jet Gatling, just because of the fact you do have a chance to trigger it off of last life and prolong the game from there. Pretty nice overall. And then there's also I Love You, which is an event that came out in OP12, which is I think meant for this leader overall, but reason I'm not running it here is because the 1 cost plus 2000 power doesn't really do me too much. I don't really like that. Overall, paying 1 for a 2k counter doesn't feel great. But you do get to add a law from your trash to your hand if you are at 2 or less life. So something to note there as well, something you could potentially add to the deck. There's probably other additions that you can add here and there, maybe add more triggers in the deck like Kikunojo, but I wouldn't say I'm happy with how this has ended up, but I think that this is probably the most solid list that I've tested out, at least overall. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Rosinante. What spicy additions have you added to the deck that maybe I didn't consider? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.